Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. In particular, welcome here to this creator interview that we're about to have tonight. It's been a while since we've done one of these, but we don't have creators on the show without my number one Brianiac. It's Brianiac. You're my number one Brian. Brian, sorry. What's up, man? Station. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
There's got to be worse things to be number one at, right? So,
well, I mean, being the number one Brian in my life is pretty dope, I think, actually.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take it.
Because I know like two Brians, and one of them's a piece of shit.
Oh, okay. So low bar, but that's good.
Yeah. Well, the other one's this guy that you've never met, but
okay.
I don't see him as. Anyway, Brian, thank you for being here, man. This is going to be this has been actually in the works for a little bit, and so I'm excited to finally have this opportunity to chat with our guest tonight. Our guest tonight is the writer and the artist and the complete creator of a book that just blew me away. Started last year. It came out before that, actually, right? There was like a Kickstarter, and then it went over to Oni Press. They published it, all 6 issues. The trade paperback is out today for this awesome book called Pink Lemonade. And I'm telling y'all, this is one of my favorite comics of the last 10 years. Like, it's on the top 5 list, probably, for me. It is beautiful. It is unashamedly a positive book that loves innovation, and it seems like loves the medium of comics. And so I'm super excited to be talking about the creator. We're talking to the creator of Pink Lemonade tonight, y'all. Let's everybody throw out a mighty, hearty, and warm station and a pop, pop, boom to the one, the only Nick Cagnetti. What is up, my man?
Hi, thank you for having me. It's good to see you both.
Good to see you too. I mean, I remember we started chatting. I think you were making some comments when we first started covering Pink Lemonade, right? And I was like, man, we got to get you on the show. And we always try to. And then we met at Heroes Con a couple weeks ago. We were like, we definitely got to get you on. What's that?
Nice print back there from Heroes.
Oh, I know, right? Yeah, that's the one I got from you. You remarked it for me, which is awesome. To show everybody that.
Yeah, it was fun meeting you guys there.
Heck yeah.
Heroes Con's just the best, right? Because it's just absolute fantastic creators. I remember being over talking to Jim Rugg at one point, looking over and you're exchanging comics with Don Simpson. And I'm just like, this is the coolest place to be.
Yeah, it really is. I hadn't been there since 2019, so being back with the whole book was really nice. And I actually got to have dinner with Don Simpson the one night too, which was really fun. He's a really cool guy.
He's super cool. He's not as crotchety as he comes across sometimes in his.
Oh, he's funny.
Okay, awesome. Oh, I remember I met him last year for the first time, and I brought my splitting images for him to sign. And I had the recent collection that they had done, and I had the original issues. And he's like, "What coloring do you like better?" I was like, "I don't know. I like the old coloring better for some reason. It just has this texture or whatever." He's like, "That's the wrong answer." And I was just like, I think I just insulted Don Simpson. But then he did me a really cool remark in a Megaton trade. So that was super cool. So Nick, thank you for being here, dude. Congratulations on having the book. It's got to be a trip to actually have the complete saga in a trade paperback now from Oni Press. And I can just tell you this. The first question I want to ask is, did you have any hand in designing this actual book? Because this is one of the best trade paperbacks ever. And it got Smell of the Week in the weekly comic book review this week. Because it smells glorious.
I just got to supervise along the way with how the book was going to be looking. So I got to provide a bunch of assets and some input on how it would be. So I mean, I pretty much left them to mostly their own devices as far as that goes. I didn't have a whole lot of things to say that I wanted to be changed. And as far as book design goes, I think they really knocked it out of the park there. Like honestly, too, for me, it's a really nice thing just seeing it collected in such a nice package like that. Like that was sort of the thing I was hoping for at the start of this whole process, was just to make something that would be collected and a nice complete thing by the end of it.
Yeah, and then on the back, you've got a pull quote from John Cassidy. On the front, a pull quote from Michael Allred. So that's not too bad. That's not too shabby, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy. I mean, it's really nice just because I love so many creators, and just everybody's just been really, really nice about the whole book and all that throughout the whole thing. And it's really been, at many moments, it's helped me get along through the whole thing. You know, just find that extra power to keep pushing forward. So it's been really nice. And like Mike Allred and Laura Allred, I got to meet them a few times, like ages ago, before Pink Lemonade was even a thing. Like they came to the local show up here in Arizona. We mostly talked about a furniture store, which was fun. The year after that, I was in San Diego and I was waiting for a portfolio review, and it was taking a long time. So I was nodding off, just sitting there, and I heard somebody say, like, "That's a cool shirt." And I had a Madman shirt on at the time, and it was just Mike and Laura standing there. So I just like sprung up, and they remembered me from before, which was cool.
Oh, that's great.
You're like, how embarrassing. You're like, I'm wearing your shirt. Oh, no. I see that Brian changed his shirt because Brian was actually wearing your shirt today when he came to the shop.
I was wearing it in honor of the release.
Very cool. That's nice. I got this big Lara Croft shirt on from like the late 90s. It's really big, but I like it.
I love it. Is that vintage too, right? That's nice.
Yeah.
You could probably get like $50 on eBay for that, Nick. You know, like who knows? You never know.
I wanted to. Shirt markets are pretty crazy.
Oh yeah. I was going to say on the trade, like the trade dress on the outside, that it's awesome, especially for a trade, having like the glossy finish and everything. But like the extras you put in there, I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, you had the variant covers and stuff, and some back matter. But was that one section? Is that a bunch of fan art you'd received, or?
There wasn't any fan art in there, unfortunately, but a lot of that was just like some concept stuff just spread along in the back there. So, and then on those opening pages, went on the front and the back, those are the old Pink Lemonade comic strips on the inside there. So that's sort of the beginnings of the character when you open it up on the inside cover, and then on the back inside cover. So that was kind of nice getting those to be included in some way, since that was sort of the whole beginning of the thing.
Yeah, I really appreciate that you brought that in. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brian.
Oh, I was just gonna say it was nice too. You had those the covers from when it was on It's Alive, I think.
Yeah, a few of those didn't even see publication, so it was nice getting to just include them, because I just kept making the covers because I just kept assuming that it would see the light of day at some point. I wasn't sure, but I just kept doing it. So they were all still in line with the old with the old design at that point.
Very cool. Our buddy Brett's in the chat. He's a big fan of your work, and Brett says, "What was the original idea of Pink Lemonade? Where did it all begin in your brain?"
Thank you, Brett. Brett gave me a really nice Pink Lemonade painting that was like on wood a few years ago. It's just super nice.
Cool.
Pink Lemonade started back when I was in college. I had just finished a book with a friend. I'd done a few books with some friends that they had written and I had drawn. So I had a bit of a desire to do something a little bit different just on my own for once there. So that was sort of a hurdle I had to get myself over, with just sort of trying to get over that fear of making something just totally on my own. So I ended up just doing these comic strips. I got a few of them. These are some of the comic strips. They were just like hand painted with watercolor and acrylic back in the day.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't have any like script for these things, but it was just sort of seeing like, where it would take me strip by strip, and just sort of, seeing how it would go. And it was a good exercise in trying to figure out things like pacing, just for my own sake, and in that daily format, because you could really like work it so you could get it, from point A to point B. So, yeah. First thing right here, actually.
Thank you for sharing those, man. That's awesome.
Nobody's ever seen this one. This is an unfinished one. I got to a certain point with all these where I just sort of came to a stopping point, and I sort of changed the direction where I wanted to go back to doing full books and with the character instead of doing more strips. So I had a few unfinished strips that just sort of never saw the light of day before committing to the full series. So because it was sort of growing to a point where, you know, I felt like it wouldn't be doing it justice if I had just stayed with that format. I felt like it deserved something a little bit bigger. So that was sort of the change in direction after a certain point.
I was immediately blown away with the bubbly nature of the first issue when I read it, but also like how kind of like the entire series has got this like very positive, bubbly vibe to it, but it's also got this like dark undertone a little bit, right? And the idea that like everybody goes through these dark times, but it's like how we respond. And sometimes we just need somebody to like be there with us to go through it and cheer us up, right? And I was picking up a lot of like Allred influences, right? There were moments where I was like, this is so almost Madman, but it's clearly its own thing. And then when you get to like issue 5, where you're just like throwing it all to the wall, right? And just being very innovative and doing all kinds of different techniques. You're using like 3D pictures of models and stuff that like, right? And like, it's just, first of all, can I just say thank you for being a creator who makes comics like this, because there's so much just fluff out there and everybody's got their opinions about the comic book industry and the doom and the gloom where everything is great, whatever. But like, it is a rarity for people to make comics like you make. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Oh man.
Oh, is that what you use for the pictures?
These are the little clay guys that showed up just in that one panel. I wanted to sort of just put in random things in there that, you know, sort of paying homage to different kinds of ways that people can make comics or have made comics over the, you know, many decades. You know, I had little 3D printed action figures that I painted up just for that one shot too, just because I was thinking back to like the Twisted Toy Fair theater stuff back in the day, just seeing like action figures on a page. That kind of stuff was always just kind of fun. These are those guys here, actually.
Oh,
But yeah, it was a lot of fun to do because I really you know, I was trying to tell a story just from a lot of things that I was going through in my own head at the time, and just trying to figure out and put that onto a character who was also sort of like going through those same sorts of you know, battles internally, and just sort of trying to come up with a way to sort of reflect those things in like a, you know, in like a sort of reflect them in like a real way. And that sort of came about in like the whole struggle with the media complex, just sort of co-opting her identity and stuff, and just having that part of herself at stake. I mean, it was something that I've sort of wrangled with for a while, just sort of being like a fan of this stuff growing up and just sort of seeing it evolve. Like, of course, you're like super excited seeing all these things happen, like big media adaptations of your favorite characters and all that. But sort of the thought I had at a certain point was like, are we losing track of some of like the important stuff, like behind the scenes matters of it all? And you know, that was sort of even a thing back early in the early days for like my earliest comics that I did with some friends back coming out of high school. We were just sort of like, why are all the superheroes like blowing up cities in the movies and stuff now? And just like that all these lines on their costumes and stuff. It's like we just wanted to try and refocus a bit was our goal coming out of school back then. So I mean, I guess it's just something that's always been close to me.
Yeah, I really love it, man. Death Rattle says, what's the plot of Pink Lemonade? If you had to like put it together in like a quick kind of way, Nick, how would you do it?
Oh man, that's a hard question. It always changes for me. Anytime I say it, I mean, I'd say it's about this lady named Pink Lemonade who's just going out there trying to do her thing, trying to just be herself. But the world has other plans for her, specifically the entertainment world, and tries to take advantage of her good nature. And she's got to try and, you know, stay true to herself, stay pure, rise above all that.
there's this theme I pick up in the book where you're talking about both sides of nostalgia, right? You're talking about a side that can be very inspirational, help somebody self-actualize, help somebody through some hard times and trauma, right? And like, for instance, when I look back at why I love the things I love so much, Masters of the Universe, like those are some of the happiest times of my life, right? Like being a kid, all this chaos going around, but like I could sit there and watch my show and play with my toys. And it's just something that like hones in. So you focus on the positive side of it and how it helps us deal with things, but you also focus on the other side where it's like there's almost a negative connotation to it, like the commodification of it by the entertainment industry and how it gets bastardized by them and just kind of like turned into like it winds up having all of its like meaning and heart ripped out of it and just becomes like this cookie cutter thing. Ron Radical is a character that goes through this, right? Is that something that was intentional? Is that like a point you're trying to make?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, because it was just sort of, me in my own head, just trying to, find the reason why I love all this stuff still and why it all still, triumphs even over all that stuff for me. So, Pink Lemonade's whole journey is really just about trying to hold on to that joy. Like for me, like I can look back to times in my life when I would be, needing that inspiration. I'd be thinking back to stuff like Spider-Man, just like lifting the heavy stuff off of his back. And like, it would really honestly keep me going sometimes. So like just the idea of like what fiction can do for people just to inspire them is something that's always been sort of an idea that's been in my head that just is sort of, it's been at the forefront of my head for a while, for sure.
So I've compared your work to the Allreds pretty publicly many times. We were talking about that at Heroes Con. But today, when I'm flipping through this book and I'm looking at the production, I'm looking at the pages, I'm smelling it. Nick, this book smells so freaking good. I'm looking at the colors. You colored this book yourself. And so I started picking together something else. I'm like, man, this is also very Daniel Clowes to me. Are you a fan of Clowes' work? Because the coloring in this, like I see a lot of like, I see some connection there. Like the way that you focus in on that color and make it so poppy. And you like, I'll be honest with you, I hate the color yellow, but you're using like yellows and pinks and everything and making it work. And it's like, it's so good.
Thank you. Yeah, I am a fan of Dan Clowes for sure. So, I mean, I feel like that's sort of been a thing for me that I've had a lot of fun with just in terms of making all this stuff, was trying to blend a lot of my kind of influences together in some ways. Just sort of, growing up mostly like superhero Spider-Man fan, like that was like my big thing, how I learned to read, write, and draw, just studying those books. And then later on, sort of starting to get introduced to some other stuff out there and just sort of, falling in love with that side of comics too. So just trying to sort of find that confluence of all those things and just try and put them all together in some sort of way. Is a big thing.
So Spider-Man was that your entry into comics? Was Spider-Man books?
Yeah.
What era was that?
Well, when I started reading monthly, it was the early 2000s. So it was at that point where JMS just took over Amazing Spider-Man. Paul Jenkins, Mark Buckingham were on the side book, and Ultimate was pretty thriving along. So there was just like an abundance of really, really good stuff out at the time. So I was just like eating it all up. My mom was getting me comics every week, and I'd just be like studying them day in, day out. So that was a big thing for me. Like, honestly, underrated run would be that Paul Jenkins, Mark Buckingham, Peter Parker Spider-Man run, just because it was so full of humor and heart. And
the whole issue with typeface. I remember I was watching Across the Spider-Verse this weekend, and they have typeface in it, and I was like, what?
That got such a pop off for me. Just seeing that, of all things, like all the other cameos in that scene, I was just like, okay, that's cool. But then typeface, I'm like, whoa.
That run is really good. And at the time I remember, and that was a very exciting time for comics, right? Comics were like dead. Like nobody was reading comics at that point. And Marvel was like, when they brought in Joe Quesada and Bill Hemmes was there, and like there was this like they were bringing in these indie creators. You know, they brought in Pete Milligan and Mike Allred to redefine X-Force, like they're the antithesis of Rob Liefeld. You know what I'm saying? Like, and they're still making those books today with the Excellent, which is a really good book.
Very good.
There's a lot of creative energy coming in at that time, and the Spider-Man books were for the first time in a long time because we had all that Clone Saga stuff, and I like when they try to bring Byrne in to fix it, but I know it's not the best stuff. But I'm just such a mark for Byrne that I love everything he did. Like, I think Spider-Man Chapter 1 is brilliant, even though it's probably not. But I loved all that stuff. But JMS and Romita were rightly getting all this attention. But what Jenkins was doing was a much more like introspective look at Peter. And then the Buckingham stuff was great. Then they brought in Humberto Ramos, who has been associated with Spider-Man ever since. And so that's a really cool run to get into. What did you start going back and reading stuff as well? Were you trying to get caught up on stuff after that?
Oh yeah, like pretty much everything, honestly. Like some of my earliest memories are just my family didn't have a computer, so I anytime I'd be at my grandparents' house, I'd be looking at their computer and I'd just be browsing like Spider-Man fan sites, just like reading up on like all the history and looking at covers, and then go to the comic book store and just like pick up recent back issues or those big phone book essentials, black and white, the early stuff, all those volumes of that. Yeah, just was trying to pick up anything I could and just like looking at the internet fan sites. But few early ones that I remember sticking out to me was there was a Spider-Man miniseries that was drawn by Steve Rude that was really cool. It was called Lifeline. Like just how like awesome and fluid his layouts and his art was on that was just like an early thing for me for like, wow, this is really cool. And one that was coming out at the time was the Tangled Web, Spider-Man's Tangled Web stuff. And
that was a really cool book. There's like Darwin Cook issue and Greg Rucka and oh my god.
I was just gonna say the Darwin Cook ones. Those were ones that left a big impression on me too. Just as you know, I was mostly absorbing Spider-Man stuff as a kid. So whenever you get like these people who weren't like typically Spider-Man guys coming in, I'd be like, whoa. What is this? This is cool.
It started with Garth Ennis and Glenn Fabry, right? Like you're just like, what?
Garth Ennis writing Spider-Man?
Yeah. And then Greg Rucka did one with Eduardo Rizzo that was in there. It was like Kingpin centric, and then there was Duncan Fegredo did one, I think, with Pete Milligan. Like it was really good. You can't find them collected anymore because Marvel doesn't like to, keep their best stuff in print for some reason. But I'm pretty sure, Brian, that we have. I saw you writing in your notebook. I'm pretty sure we have every issue of that at the shop. So
okay,
all right. I like that Garth Ennis story that opens it because it's just like putting Spider-Man in like a kind of a horror situation in a really fun way.
Put him in a Garth Ennis book is what's happening. Right. He's going to be at Memphis Comic Expo this year. I'm so excited to meet him because Preacher was a big deal to me when I was a teenager in the 90s. Like, that was a big, big deal to me. So how did you get into, first of all, by the way, you mentioned the essentials. We didn't even realize at the time how amazing those essentials were. Because like at the time I was like, oh, so I can just get like 20 issues of Fantastic Four for $15. That's cool. I can get caught up and read the Stan and Jack stuff finally. But we didn't even realize at the time, I didn't, like how awesome it is to have clean representations of the ink art, right? Like just, it's such a, like I'm a big Tomb of Dracula mark. I love Gene Colan. I got all the recent colored editions that they did, and that's fine. But my essentials are still a treasured edition to me to see that Gene Colan, like the original and the inking over it, because like he's got to be the most difficult artist to ink because he's just so fluid almost with his pencil work. It's absolutely fantastic. Yeah. How did you transition into the more indie stuff? Was it Tangled Web? Were you looking into like, oh, what else have these kind of people done?
Well, Honestly, it was kind of stuff like that, and just being aware of books at the time, like Ecstatics, and seeing Mike Allred's work always was just like, whoa, I really like this. But like, it wasn't something that I dove into until like much later when I was like in high school and just sort of picking up the back issues at my local shop up there. But and then after diving into some of that, it was just a bit of like finding all of Madman just at a convention one day and just picking all of that up and then just like falling in love and sort of being exposed to this whole other side of like you can do all this kind of stuff with comics, and it's just like it was really really influential for me. It was just sort of like that, and like just looking at a bunch of Steve Rude stuff. Like I picked up a trade of the Moth, that circus kind of book that he did a while ago at just like a record shop when I was in college or high school or something like that. And that was another one that just sort of stuck out to me. So just lots of stuff like that, and just all sort of adds up after a while, I think.
I like that you mentioned Steve Rude too, because I remember like the first Steve Rude stuff I got was probably some Nexus stuff I bought like in the early 90s. And I didn't never really get super into it. But then he did the Incredible Hulk Superman crossover, right? And I remember getting that and just being like, whoa, like my mind was blown. Then he did that X-Men Children of the Atom, I believe, with Joe Casey. That was amazing. That was really cool. I've always loved his work. He had a very clean yet fluid style that really shows a lot of movement to it that I absolutely love. What are some of your artistic influences, Nick? We talked about Allred. We talked about some others, but who is it to you? Like Steve Ditko's got to be a big deal to you, I'm sure.
Oh, big time. I love Steve Ditko's work. Honestly, those early Essentials, just reading that stuff, I just loved how sort of quirky all the characters would be, and then just jumping straight into the Romita stuff and the Essentials. It was night and day difference, but they were both just so uniquely their own and so great. So I always kind of like been drawn to like that kind of stuff in general, I'd say. Yeah, Steve Ditko would be a big one for me, honestly. Some stuff that I was getting into at the time when I was diving into Pink Lemonade would actually be Hugo Pratt's Corto Maltese books. It was a big one that I was looking at a lot at the time. I really love like the expressive brushwork that he has in those books, and just sort of that dreamlike quality that the adventures could take on at some points, I think was something that kind of rubbed off on me in my approach on Pink Lemonade. I really like that stuff. Tried to find more European books out there. I knew Dark Horse was putting out a bunch of collections, I think, or was it IDW? I don't know. A few years ago, they had a bunch of random stuff coming out, and I was trying to pick up some books like that.
Yeah, we love that European style, and so much of it we don't have easy access to here in the States, and it's a shame, especially with the Mobius stuff, which is always a topic conversation with me and Brian and everybody else at Heroes Con. When we go hang out after hours, we're always like, what's up with the Mobius reprints, man? Like, what do we got to go, man? Speaking of Mobius, one of the biggest fans of Mobius who met Mobius is Brian. So Brian, this is the Brian, man. What you got, bro?
Oh, well, yeah, I was going to bring it back to the Pink Lemonade stuff. I know we touched on some of this already, but like one of the main things I pulled from it was a deep love of the comic industry, and I mean you pull from a lot of different eras of it and everything. I don't know. I just didn't know if you wanted to expand on how much your love of the comic industry and stuff like that, because I mean you go, in the first issue you deal with because I was around in the 80s when the comics turned from the superhero comics turned from that more optimistic feel to because I bought Watchmen and Electro Assassin and Kraven's Last Hunt as those things came out, and so it was and I was all in on that, and I love that part in the comic. But then you also when you go into the backstory of the creation of OJ Bot, I mean that I'm pretty sure that's the whole Bob Kane, Bill Finger kind of saga there. It's like, I don't know, your love for the industry really comes out. But I don't know if you wanted to expand on that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I love a lot of different kinds of books. Like I'm a big Spawn fan, actually. So like I like a ton of stuff. So I wanted to try and sort of put all that kind of affection into the book. So I think a big way that sort of came about was the whole Ron Radical stuff in there, and just sort of trying to acknowledge the the different kinds of forms that these characters of these archetypes take on over the decades, and sort of the way they change, sort of ebb and flow, and sort of getting different sides of that together on the same page, sharing some space, and just like being totally cohesive together was sort of a big thing for me to just try and get across. And sort of the whole thing with the Ron Radical character was that idea of the how people view the tropes of some of those darker, edgier characters, and how it's like, well, this is all that they do, and I wanted to try and just sort of show like a different side of those characters. Like, maybe they aren't played out, maybe they can offer a lot of other sides of themselves too. And I mean, yeah, like the whole stuff with the OJ Bot character was a lot of fun for me too, because it was something that actually came about out of like a spelling mistake back when I was in college. I was just texting a friend and I was writing "oh boy," but it came out as OJ Bot. So that was I was like, that could be a character right there. And I kept trying to put OJ Bot into all kinds of projects for years, and nobody wanted OJ Bot because they're like, this is goofy, Nick. I was just like, no, wait, trust me, the OJ Bot could be something cool here. And I ended up, I think the more you just sort of stew with ideas, you end up, ascribing meaning throughout all that to these things. And that was sort of the case with that character, where it was sort of, even seemingly silly ideas, you can find some meaning to them if they're, you're tackling things there that you're wrestling about in your own head too. So that was definitely something for me with that character.
So you got OJ Bot, you got Pink Lemonade. What's next? Fruit Punch Man? Is it gonna be like a One Punch Man parody or something? Fruit Punch Man? Like
I don't know, but it was fun doing the drink themed characters.
Yeah, well, what's this sugary drink theme going on here, Nick? I like it. Let's expand on this universe, right?
Yeah, well, in the last issue, there is that little cherry limeade hint.
Yeah,
that's right. I just had my first cherry limeade in months the other day from Sonic. It was amazing, as always. Cherry limeade's great, so I would approve that. I'd be on board. So
very nice. I mean, I can't see myself being away from Pink Lemonade for too long, just because the character is so much fun to write and draw, and just sort of be in that whole space with. I mean, the world was just a lot of fun to be in. So, I mean, I already got ideas for more, but the thing for me was just wanting to get in there and just do something that was as satisfying as I could get it, just for that. And, hopefully get to try some other things too before, going back to that. So, I mean, I guess that would be my main focus, is just trying as many different things as I can, and just to keep things fresh for myself creatively, and, let the ideas sort of stir around for a bit and let them get to that point. Because that's sort of how it was for me with this book, was, doing the comic strips with the character. It's just more of these ideas just kept coming in and just kept stirring around. And then out of a certain point, it's like pertinent, like I got to do this. And it gets to that point. And, yeah, I mean, so certain things were there from the very beginning, but other things were kind of more flexible. Like even things like Ron Radical, he wasn't even in my script for issue 1, but got to a certain point when I was drawing the pages where I'm like, right here, this needs to be here. And there's instances like that, I think, just in making things where, you got things that are set in stone, but then other things just sort of like fill themselves in for you. And that Ron Radical character actually, he was a thing that had been dormant for like a decade. It was like the earliest thing I tried to do as a 90s parody book, and my art just sucked. So I just quit. And the character was sort of lying, waiting for something to do for forever. So sort of found a perfect place for him eventually. So any idea can find some new home at some point.
Yeah. Even a typo. Like, oh boy.
Right.
Yeah. Well, speaking of moving on to some other stuff, you also got a story in the Xeno here with some body horror, right? I mean,
Yeah. That was a big shift for sure. But I enjoyed doing it because I was just coming off of Pink Lemonade, literally, and I got to do something that was like the total opposite. So it's nice getting to just sort of prove to myself that like I could do something in a little bit more different after all this time working on that one thing. So it was pretty fun.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was a great story, and I really love the art, but it was, I read it, and then, I reread Pink Lemonade, and I was kind of, I don't know, I was giggling a little bit. I was like, well, you got body horror here, and then,
Yeah. No, the next thing I'm doing is going to be, hopefully something a little bit different too, just in the same respect where, I feel like as far as with Pink Lemonade, I was trying to do something that was, I didn't feel like I saw that kind of book out there at the moment. So I feel like for the next thing, I'm trying to do something sort of along those same lines, but down a different path. I think I might have mentioned this to you guys at Heroes Con, but just something kind of spooky fun along those lines.
We met your homie who's
right,
collaborating with you. What's his name again?
Daniel Ziegler.
Yeah. And y'all had some really cool ideas, and I got really hyped. I get really hyped.
Working with Daniel's really fun because sort of our I feel like both of our tastes as far as like entertainment go and like the things we kind of like to see, we're really simpatico with like, what we're trying to do. And so it's really, really nice collaboration, sort of bouncing ideas back and forth and just sort of, we could fill in the blanks for what could happen in certain points. So I'm actually getting ready to start thumbnailing that stuff. So as far as when I get to that point, it feels like it starts to go pretty smooth from there. So I'm sure people will see some updates as I'm working on that because I like to post lots of updates while I'm drawing stuff.
Brian, anything else?
Well, we always ask folks like, is there any music you like to put on while you're working, or maybe for inspiration or just to
Well, let's see here. I'm a big fan of St. Vincent. Like that was a lot of what was on rotation for me back in college and currently still even now. I put on a lot of random like 90s drum and bass, just like working on finishing up the last half of the series. That was, it really gets you energetic while you're working on it. And that was a big thing for me. I really liked the latest Wolf Alice album from, I guess, a year or two ago. That was really good. I guess sort of stuff like that, and then just random things like old drum and bass.
Nice. Yeah, you can't go wrong with drum and bass at all.
Nope.
I love St. Vincent. Her album with David Byrne that they did, like, this is probably like over 10 years ago at this point, but it was so good. Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I have a thing for St. Vincent, but we don't need to dive into that right now. It's a whole other conversation.
The one character in there, Cyan Magenta and Pink Lemonade, was actually pretty heavily inspired visually just off of that era, the self-titled era for St. Vincent. So that was a way of trying to put that side of my fandom into the book.
It's going to make my reread even more exciting when I get to it next week, because I'm going to be putting on some St. Vincent and reading Pink Lemonade. And dude, the book is so freaking good. And I see people already saying that, I just called my LCS and got a copy reserved. The way it's reprinted is gorgeous. The colors pop through, and y'all, once again, third time's the charm. That smell on this book is ridiculous. Look at that.
You actually got the helmet? Nice.
That was back in college. I
Did you make that first? Was that helping you design the character?
No, that came after, but it was just sort of me trying to keep things active in my head while I was in school. I didn't do a whole lot of like traditional drawing art stuff in school, but it was more like video and performance. So any way I could sort of integrate those other things I was doing into that stuff, it would be like, well, now I'm not like totally stepping away from that for the moment.
Yeah. So in 2019, that was my first Heroes Con. And I vividly remember seeing the design of Pink Lemonade on a banner somewhere. So that means I walked by your booth multiple times, right? And at this point, I didn't even know who like Jim Rugg was or nothing like that, right? But like when the announcement came that Pink Lemonade was coming back and it was going to be at Oni Press and all this, I remember Jim Rugg posting on Facebook or Twitter or somewhere about how excited he was, right? And it made me like pay attention. And then Jim Rugg did a variant cover for you, which is an awesome cover. How did you get connected with Jim Rugg? Did you meet him at Heroes Con? Was you just SCX or something like that? Like what was going on?
Well, it was actually back from the old publisher, It's Alive, back when we were getting ready to put out the first issue through them, and they just reached out to Jim Rugg because I knew he was aware of my stuff at the time back then, and said he was looking forward to whenever Pink Lemonade would be coming out. So it was really cool that he ended up doing the cover back then, and here's one of those right now. For reference, but yeah, that was a lot of fun.
The van from 1977, y'all can airbrush that on the side of it, and it will look badass.
Yeah, that was really fun. The whole getting to be at Heroes Con in 2019, I got to meet Jim Rugg for the first time and tell him that was really how excited I was about seeing him do that cover, and it was really fun.
Did you get to year there?
Well, that was my first year there, 2019 also, yeah.
Yeah, did you get to chat with him this year, though?
I did, yeah. It was great because he was
him
really...
and Ed mentioned you on their channel a lot, actually. I don't
really
know if you're aware of that. Yeah.
I saw just recently that one after Heroes this year, they mentioned me, which was pretty nuts. Yeah, I got to talk to them both over there, which was fun. They're really supportive. I mean, everybody I've been able to talk to in comics have just been so kind. Like, got to talk a bunch to Michel Fife, which was really fun too. I mean, just everybody's just awesome.
Yeah, you're right there in the prime spot too. If anybody wants, it's just like Nick is there, Ed is there, Jim's there, Michelle's right there, Charles Forsman's right there, Don Simpson's right there. It's just, and then what's his name? You got his what's his name that was right next to Jim, who did
Monty Keene.
Yeah, Monty Keene. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, right here is the earliest printed Pink Lemonade book that's out there, which is a self-published version of this holiday grab bag thing.
Wow.
It's the old publisher, It's Alive, put one of these out through them. But the difference you can tell with the covers is it has my name on it, like under the title. It says like by me right there. And these ones, they don't have that. I think I only made like 50 of them back in the day. So
wow.
It's like the oldest one right there.
Wow. And you got awesome. Brian that was like, I got to get one of those. Like,
yeah.
I got to
think about how do I get one of those? So, because I did get the 1 and 2 from the It's Alive run.
Nice.
So I was able to find those. So,
heck yeah,
that's cool.
Nick, is there any current creators or comics that are coming out right now that you'd like to point out as something that's really good that's inspiring you right now?
Well, I'm a big fan of John Bergen. He was a fellow creator over at the Indie Island over there at Heroes Con. He got a book called Frog Boy, which is really fun. It was called Frog Boy Taco Tuesday. It was the first volume of that. came out, I think, pretty recently from New Friday Comics, which was really fun because it was like another thing where it was a self-published effort before, and then it got picked up for something else. And I'm a big fan of Jamie Jones and his character, the Baboon. Got to work with Jamie Jones back in 2020 with a Pink Lemonade crossover with him,
right? Yeah.
He's got a new Baboon book coming out really soon, which I'm really looking forward to because every time he does anything, it's always like he's up in the ante with his brushwork and his layouts. It's just really fun stuff. Another creator, Amanda Semler, she's got a book called Yeti or Not, which is really fun. Really like that stuff.
I like that name.
It's a really good title, actually.
Yeah, got some Yeti hunting. Good stuff.
Well, thank you for writing all this down, Brian.
Yeah,
I am writing this down.
That's the Baboon crossover book right there that we did in 2020.
Nick brought everything. He was like, "Here's my original strips. Here's the unfinished ones. Here's the crossover you can't find anymore. Here's
I got the crossover on my Big Cartel shop. Those ones I have. The other ones not so much, unfortunately.
Oh, so there's a place where we can go to buy stuff directly from.
Yeah.
Well, what is that? Plug it.
Yeah, I got my website is radicalrealmcomics.com. There's a section on there where you can buy some comics. It's got like links straight to Oni Press for all the Pink Lemonade stuff, but then there's some other things on there too, like the crossover book, and I also have some freebies on there too, like some of my earliest comic books. They're just free on there, like old school one called Infinite Wonders, which was a superhero thing I did with one of my friends, and that was a fun book because like every issue it just kind of looks different because I was just like learning a lot from every one. So there's like jumps from each one.
Dude, that's awesome. I want to know. So I'm a big movie guy as well. I love fiction in all of its forms. So I always like to ask people when I first have this conversation is what are some of your favorite movies? Like what are filmmakers or films that inspire you in some kind of way?
One of my probably my number one is Spider-Man 2. Always been a big fan of
Sam Raimi, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I love Sam Raimi. One of my favorite movies is also probably Napoleon Dynamite. I like that one. I always like The Matrix. The Wachowskis are incredible.
Yep.
Let's see. I like Halloween. John Carpenter.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Classic.
You're picking bangers right now, Nick. It's like, are you just trying to be safe? Are you just trying to pick some of the greatest films of all time?
I like Peter Chung, Eon Flux, anything Peter Chung does. Big fan. I guess like those are a lot of the big ones for me right there. Like sort of as soon as I discovered Eon Flux, it was like a big game-changing moment for me.
Wow.
He has like a Patreon where he was giving away cells like last year, which is really cool. This is like a couple layers with all the different characters on there from the pilot episode.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Big fan.
Peter Chung's kind of like a legend. And I don't think a lot of people in this industry even like, or in the fandom, like quite get it. You know what I'm saying? Like Peter Chung is an absolute legend.
He's been like central to like so many things like people remember from their childhoods that he's just like people always see people realizing like he did Rugrats, like that's the big one. He did Transformers, he did Ninja Turtles. Just like so much.
What's your favorite cartoon from your childhood?
Might have to be the 90s Spider-Man cartoon. Like as far as the one that I've rewatched the most, just like the one that I've gone back to time and time again, it would have to probably be that one. Because it was like a really go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I love when you go to revisit that Spider-Man series and it's like Sins of the Father Part 16, and you're like, What?
Yeah.
Is this trying to be as convoluted as Spider-Man comics were in the 90s? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, no, that was like an appealing thing for me as a kid, just being on like the fan sites, and I'd just be like trying to piece it all together. Like, which episodes haven't I seen yet? I gotta catch this one, but how do I know when it's airing? But stuff like that was fun. I like Beavis and Butthead too, and Daria.
Yes. I used to record the audio of Beavis and Butthead on like a cassette recorder I had back in the day. I would just record the audio and listen to it in school, and I'd get in trouble for it. But
I'm enjoying the new Beavis and Butthead series that they got out there on the one streaming service. There's so many of them.
But are they on Paramount or something? Maybe I
think that's it. Yeah, I should know. I just watched like the final episode of the second season like last week. It's good stuff.
Do they still do commentary on music videos?
Occasionally, but they do a lot more like just watching YouTube videos or TikToks and commenting and stuff like that.
Of course, that's where it goes now, right? Of course, that's what they do in 2023. That makes a lot of sense.
It's pretty fun because they get to sort of take things in some new directions. Also, like there's a lot of the same tried and true, but then they also experiment a bit.
So you've done Pink Lemonade, and you mentioned you would like to get back to this character, but you got some other things you want to do. Maybe you want to explore some stuff in horror. Maybe you want to explore some stuff in science fiction. Is like what is the direction you want to go in? Like usually everybody wants to know, hey, what mainstream character would you want to work on? Well, Nick, obviously it's Spider-Man. That's the one you would want to do, right? Me personally, I would want you to do some Spawn. I would love to see your Spawn. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I would love to do that too. I got to meet Todd back. He lives here too in Arizona, and back when I was in college, just through like a friend of a friend, they were able to take us into their office up there, McFarlane Toys, and I got to show him what I was working on at the time. That horror book with my friend Daniel back in college, the earlier iteration of it. I got to show him some pages, and he was really. I hear he's always receptive to seeing like Spawn-esque characters and stuff. So he was excited about that, and he gave me some good advice with. He's told me to use more line weight variation for my pages, so took that to heart immediately, and then started like getting more brushes out for every other page I was doing after that, which was fun.
Dude, that's so freaking
that's
cool.
Fantastic.
Oh my goodness. So like I got a buddy who has recently done some work with Todd because he was, Todd's doing that artist spotlight for the covers right now. My buddy Mark Spears. He did work on the Spirit Halloween movie. He's done the Monster card series, this thing right here, but he did some recent Spawn covers and shit. And so maybe I need to holler at Mark and be like, you need to holler at Todd and be like, get Nick Cagnetti on some Spawn variant covers, because I would push the shit out of those. Do you got a Spawn image that you could send me at some point? Not like in actuality, but like just, have you done Spawn? I would love to see your Spawn. I can't even imagine what that would look like, Nick.
I've done some Spawn sketches back in the day, back in like college in my notebooks, like watercolor, acrylic painted Spawn drawings, but like nothing too recent. I've done like a little sketch card for somebody that end of last year with just a Spawn face. Like I haven't done like a big elaborate nice pinup of Spawn in recent memory though, unfortunately.
Well, we got to get you to do one, Nick, because I got to see that. It's got to look awesome, like a Spawn Pink Lemonade crossover cover.
I feel like Todd would be interested in seeing the Spirit of the Shadows. Oh, I just said the name of it. the book. I feel like this is the old book that my friend Daniel and I did.
That cover is so easy. I love it. Yeah.
The Spirit of the Shadows is the name of it, and that's what the name of the new thing will be too.
So when can we expect a new book from you?
I don't know. We'll see. I mean, hopefully by next year. I'll keep working on it, but as soon as I'm like rolling on the pencils, I feel like it goes pretty quick from there. And especially not strictly writing this book, I feel like takes another weight off my shoulders as far as timeline goes. So I feel like, I mean, the whole thing is already plotted out from point A to point B with everything in between. So it's all feeling very fleshed out and in a good place. So I'm excited about it for sure.
All right. I got a couple quick questions here. Number one, when you were doing Pink Lemonade, did you just go for it and do it as you did, or did you write a script first?
Well, I had pretty much a rough outline for what I wanted from, point A to point B, certain beats that I knew had to be there, but it wasn't so strict as far as how it was all gonna play out and like when things were gonna happen. So going issue by issue then was really helpful for me with as far as finding what the point would be to end an issue on. As far as I feel like the cliffhangers were big help for as far as plotting out the pacing of it goes, and finding those bits and then working in between to see and try and make those individual issues as complete and satisfying as they could be was sort of the goal from those points on, because it would be sort of working issue by issue then with that rough goal in mind for where things would need to be. And certain things, like I said before, were figured out from day one, but then other things were a little bit more flexible. Like even the bad robot, the evil version robot that's in there, the connection didn't dawn upon me until like working on that issue that I already had the bad version of OJ bot established there from day one. Like that was totally in character for the corporate masters to just reuse and recycle their parts out of laziness and just combine them into the same character. So that was sort of things like that were pretty flexible and just sort of like things sort of come to you in the moment kind of thing.
Pink Lemonade was the first book you did completely like digitally, right? Where you were working in the digital space. Like, do you prefer one over the other, or how do they compare?
Honestly, I kind of like working digitally more now. Like I of course love going back and doing like commissions on paper and drawing whenever I can in my sketchbooks. But as far as for what I wanted to go for like these books, I did a certain thing with the strips and I got what I wanted them to look like there. But as far as going forward with full books again, I wanted them to make them as polished as I could. So I think working digitally really helped facilitate that for me as far as getting it and having like that complete control over the image and being able to just like totally zoom in and get things as crisp as I could. That was a big goal, and working that way definitely helped me get that.
Nice. Any advice you would have to anybody who is a creator who wants to self-publish?
Honestly, I'd say just to do it. Try and do anything you can and you never know what'll stick. Like for me, that's sort of I feel like that's kind of how it goes. Is I just sort of many times was not sure if this stuff was ever going to get out there, and working on books before this, it's just sort of those feelings you get sometimes of like, is anybody seeing this stuff out there? Is anybody gonna find this stuff? And like trying to work through those feelings of sort of it can get kind of hopeless at times, and just gotta work through it. Take breaks if you need to, step away, refocus on other projects, and then just find those things that that you really like care about and make those drive you to keep working on the next thing. Because I mean, that was for me sort of like the whole thing with Pink Lemonade was that really kept me going. It was just like I felt like it was an important thing to me, and I had to do it, and just work through a lot of stuff that way. So just keep doing it. Honestly, you never know what'll work.
Yeah, absolutely. Brian, what else you got, bro?
Well, I don't have any more questions. I'm just excited to see what's coming next. So
cool.
Yeah, we're big fans of your work. Nick, thank you for taking time out of your schedule to join us tonight. We could talk for hours, I feel. Like, honestly, we could just hang out, talk for hours. I hope you're at HeroesCon again next year. We'll hang out. We'll go get some pizza. Well, maybe Don Simpson will be there. That would be great. That would be awesome. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I cannot be so scared of him. But one of my favorite things about the recent Fantagraphics 8-ball reprints that they have been doing, like they did the hardcover a few years ago, they just did the soft cover, is Don Simpson's letters to Dan Clowes. Like, crack me up, man. They crack me up so much, and they make me scared of that man. So there's that.
Don Simpson drew this in my iPad over that dinner the one time at Heroes Con. He was
oh my goodness.
He was trying out digital for the first time, which was really fun. He was giving it a shot.
It's like, it's real fun. Here's a body in the blood pool, the pool of blood from the body.
Yeah.
You worked with Don, right? Don did a little bit of work on Pink Lemonade, right? Or something like that, right?
Yep. In the second issue, that was in the It's Alive days. For number 2, when I was finishing up working on that one, the publisher over there told me that Don Simpson wanted to work on something Pink Lemonade, work on like
no
story.
No.
I ended up like whipping a script together in like a few hours and sent it over to them, and I think it worked out really nicely actually, because it allowed me to sort of put a capper on that issue in particular in sort of a full circle kind of way. So it really worked out nicely, and Don was really cool about the whole thing. He was really excited to do it.
Nice. Well, the one question I'd like to ask everybody here is there ever in your life at some point, Nick, that you have had some kind of paranormal experience? Have you seen the Yeti? Have you seen Loch Ness? The Loch Ness monster? Have you seen aliens in the sky? Have you seen a ghost? Is there anything you'd like to share? Anything that's ever happened to you, spooky or paranormal or anything like that?
Yeah, actually, there was one time a few years ago, and I was more than a few probably. Like when I was in college, it was a late night. I was with a friend of mine. We were driving. I was taking him back home. It was like 1:30 in the morning. We live sort of like by like the mountains in Arizona. You could see the mountains over the horizon and stuff. And just in the middle of the night, we just saw in the sky like this. It was shaped like a banana. It was just like yellow thing that just like moving like really just like this in the sky, just like really abnormally. It was just like, it wasn't like something that was like just like a drone or anything, because it was way too far out there and way too high up. And it just like shifted just like that underneath the mountain horizon. And we were just like, we just saw like a banana in the sky, and it just like moved under the mountain.
The creators of Donkey Kong Country saw the same thing. It was a big inspiration for them, actually. Maybe it was just a banana reward. Like maybe that's real, right?
Yeah.
No, that's really cool. And you dip behind the mountain, you said.
Yeah, I can't explain it. My friend actually got a really, really blurry, horrible photo of it, as in keeping with like the reflection of the car dashboard, like in the way of it. But we saw it.
Hell yeah. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So Pink Lemonade is available as of today at your local comic shop. I highly encourage you to pick this one up. It is a beautiful trade paperback. It smells amazing. The colors pop through, the paper stock, the design of this book. There's lots of back matter, cool stuff, trade paper, like not trade paperbacks, but like original covers, some unpublished. There's the Jim Rugg cover right there. You have the original strips in here. You got all the stuff. Everything is in here. Like everything is in here. There's your original strips right there. This is such a well put together trade paperback, Nick. It is absolutely gorgeous and beautiful. It works as a book. Y'all, if you buy it and you don't like it, like I won't pay you for it, but like I'll tell you I'm sorry in person, but like you're going to love this book. It's absolutely fantastic. Nick, thank you so much for being here, man. Any final thoughts you want to plug? Any socials or anything coming up? Or I know you got a cover for Xeno #2, right?
Yeah. Gotta have, I guess that's coming out next month. Got a variant cover for Xeno #2 with a fun astronaut in space. He's like pumping up a space station full of like brain juices and firing them off. I got a big double page splash that's going to be in a treasury book coming out. I guess there's going to be a campaign and starting soon in July for like a tribute book for Gary Carlson's Big Bang Comics. They have Jim Brock doing the cover for that, and I got to do.
I was talking about my buddy Mark. My buddy Mark did an issue or two of Big Bang Comics back in the day, like in the 90s, like late 90s, early 2000s or something. That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, that should be fun. There's a lot of cool people doing things in there. Marty Keene's in there. He's got a splash. Let's see what else. I'm starting to pencil a little 8-page story that I don't know where it's going to be, but it's written by Zach Quaintance, who he's done a lot of things in comics journalism. He's
Comics Bookcase.
Yep.
That's my homie. He's been on the channel before. I love that dude. You're working with Zach? That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's a really fun thing that he's cooked up, and I'm excited to get to draw on that.
Yeah, he works for the Beat too. He works for the Beat. Yeah. Dude, Zach's super cool people. That's awesome to hear, Nick.
Yeah, I got the thumbnails over to him the other day, and he was pretty excited about it. So it's looking like it'll be a fun thing. I think it won't be until next year, though, that they're planning on putting that out. So not for a while. Also got the Spirit of the Shadows that I'm starting up to. So lots of things, but
the official announcement of the title tonight on PCP, y'all, everybody. So that was awesome.
You heard it here first. It's fun because like that, had a life before too. Sort of like Pink Lemonade had a life before in the strips. So getting to sort of revisit things from a new lens and give them new life. It's always fun. But I'm on Twitter at NCags and Instagram at Fudgy1Nick. So those are the places I'm probably most active.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for being here and spending some time with us. Brian, any final thoughts?
Well, I saw you drinking. I wasn't sure if that was tea, but it was that pink lemonade tea that
Unfortunately not. This is just some regular tea. Pulp 716 in New York, they have a special pink lemonade bubble tea, and they have signed remarks too of the book, which is pretty neat. And I almost forgot to mention, I'm going to be at San Diego Comic-Con in a few weeks. Can't really say why yet, but I'm going to be there.
Oh, even better. Okay, we're oozing with anticipation for that. And I'm really looking forward to like 5 years from now where you release a self-published book called Regular Ass Tea. Like I'm really excited for that. Like I'm just regular tea. So that'd be cool. Yeah, our buddy Chris from Austin Comics has great stuff, gents. I'm going to grab that pink lemonade trade. You won't be disappointed, bruh, at all.
You're going to dig it.
I've only been talking about it for almost a year now. So y'all need to come on. Step up, PCP Army. Anyway, now check out Pink Lemonade. It's really great. Brian, thank you for being here. Nick, thank you for being here. PCP Army, thank you for being here. We are dipping out on behalf of everybody here at PCP. Keep on reading.